If you're looking for a credit card where you can get great cash back, amazing travel partners, or no annual fees, this video is for you. I'm Asia, and for the past month, we have been going over credit card basics. What is a credit card, how to properly use a credit card, what is a credit score, and how to pay off your credit card debt. And all that hard work has finally paid off, as today we talk about what credit cards might be best for you. Of course, I'm still new to the credit card game, so I wouldn't be able to do this video properly all by myself, so I asked my friend Sebastian from the Ask Sebby YouTube channel to collaborate and join us on this channel. I first found Sebastian while I was trying to figure out how we could use my credit card points to fly first class on our honeymoon, and I have been a subscriber and follower of him ever since. So after this video, give him a like and follow. I'll link all of his links in the description box, and that way you can learn literally anything you would want about any credit card on the market. Sebastian, thank you so much for joining me on my channel. I have been a subscriber for a very long time, and I'm really excited that you agreed to do this video with me. For those who might not be familiar with you, how did you start your YouTube journey?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. So my name's Sebastian. I have a YouTube channel called Ask Sebby, talk about credit cards, and a lot of it is around how to maximize the money that you're already spending to get more value, whether that's cash back in your pocket or some pretty cool trips.
You're actually one of my go-tos for when I want to learn more about a specific credit card. So what inspired you to dedicate your channel to credit cards?
I think a lot of my obsession was just growing up in an Asian household and not wanting to leave any money on the table. So when we go to the grocery store, we're cheap anyways. It's not like we're intentionally going for higher priced items. You're buying the things that are on sale. But when you check out, if you're paying with cash and card and it's the same amount anyways, then you might as well get an extra 4 to maybe 6% back. You're spending money anyways, you're buying the things that are on sale, so you might as well maximize the value. It kind of feels like couponing, but a lot more scalable and less work. So that was before Mandy, who is my player 2, and now it is more about travel. I'm in what I consider the end game, where I am more focused on bonuses, and things like tax payments, rent payments can all help with this. The idea is that you can unlock some pretty cool first and business class flights for a fraction of the price. And for a lot of these, unless you're looking to drop a boatload of money, the flights aren't really accessible to normal people. You're still paying something. It's not necessarily free, but you're probably paying 5 cents on the dollar that everyone else is paying for the same vacation.
So on my channel, we talk a lot about debt and how to get out of debt. So this is actually the first time ever that I've talked about credit cards through this Credit Card 101 series. So from your perspective, if someone wanted to get their very first credit card, what are some factors they need to consider?
For a first card, I think there's 3 things I would focus on. First one is no annual fee. Second one is a multiplier that makes sense for you, whether that's groceries, eating out, entertainment, something that works. And number 3 is probably an intro bonus. Last one might be a bit confusing, but it's the idea that if you don't spend a lot of money, then that extra intro bonus drives a lot of value. So for example, for a lot of no annual fee cards, they might offer you something like $200 back for spending $500 in the first 3 months. And these are no annual fee cards. Doing the math there, that's 40% return on spend. And it is only for the intro bonus component, but that's still a lot higher than maybe 4 or 3% in spend. If you're early and you're building out a base of cards, you probably don't need this many, probably 3 to 5, maybe 10 is a good range. This is kind of overkill and more on the dense end. But yeah, for normal people, if you're building out a base anyways, you might as well get extra value in your pocket.
Okay, not you showing off your binder full of credit cards, but what are some green flags and red flags for people to look out for when they're looking for a credit card?
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting one. I think for me, green flags, especially for annual fee cards, are going to be downgrade paths into no annual fee options. For most issuers, you can use the card, sign up for it, and use it for a year. And if it's not a fit afterwards, you can downgrade it and they're not going to get too mad. You gave it a shot, it didn't work, that's fine. The caveat though is that there has to be a downgrade path, and a lot of cards and a lot of family of cards just don't have that option. So that pretty much means that you either have to keep the card and paying the fee, you can downgrade it, pay another fee, but still might not make sense, or cancel it. A good example of this is the core family of cards of American Express, the green, the gold, and the platinum. Let's say you sign up for the gold and you don't like it anymore, maybe they increased the fee or something, and you want to downgrade, you can downgrade to the green, but that still has a fee. And there are other cards at the Blue Cash Everyday that have no fee, but they're technically not part of this family, meaning that it's not an option. Especially if you don't want a lot of cards, you don't want your credit history relying on a card that maybe doesn't make sense. And you don't want to force yourself to pay money that you don't want to for something that doesn't work. In contrast, if you look at the Chase family of cards, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, Sapphire Reserve, those are both annual fee cards, but if they're not a fit in year 2, you can downgrade to the Chase Freedom Flex or the Chase Freedom Unlimited, and that's fine. Yellow flags would probably be credits because a lot of cards are increasing their annual fees, but they're also adding credits to help you counteract this. The reason to be careful with it is because there are a lot of credits that just don't make sense for certain people. So case in point, I live in San Francisco. I pretty much walk everywhere, and maybe once or twice a week when I'm going somewhere a bit further, then I'll take an Uber. It makes sense based off where we live and the amenities around us and also the things that we were trying to do. If I was living in LA or Houston or somewhere else where you pretty much have to drive 30 minutes to get anywhere, then that doesn't make sense. So for us, we value the Uber credit and pretty much a full value because it makes sense. It's something that we regularly use. But for other people, you want to make sure that you're not overvaluing things. Red flags are if cards don't make sense. If the math doesn't math, then it doesn't matter how good it is. It has to work for your situation. There might be something that makes a ton of sense for me, given my circumstances, that might not work for you or my mom or someone else.
Okay, so if someone wanted to add a credit card to their collection, what factors should they look into then?
I think a lot of it depends on your goals and what you want to achieve in the next year or two. If you currently have a cashback setup and you don't see yourself traveling, then probably add other cashback cards, whether for intro bonuses or other categories that help for you that you are not covering. So for cashback, it's pretty much looking where you spend money and making sure that you're probably getting at least 3 to maybe 5% back on each of those. If it's less than 100 or 250 or whatever number for you, it might not make sense to bother with. Cashback is pretty straightforward, but if you are looking to travel, whether it's pivoting from cashback to travel or you're already in travel and doing more travel, then there are a lot of other rules to consider. And you kind of want to maximize your bonuses and kind of get as many cards as possible, hence the downgrade paths. I have a lot of cards, but a lot of them also have no fees. So yeah, pretty much figure out your objectives for the next year or two and then work from there.
As I mentioned before, this past month we have dedicated to credit card basics for beginners. So for someone who is a beginner, what credit cards, what types of cards are available to them and might be a good option for someone who's new?
Yeah, definitely a lot of options. I think for most people, especially if you're starting out, cashback is the easiest thing to go with. You know exactly what you're getting. It's very tangible, and you don't have to deal with the complexities of these programs. If you are in that position and you think you might travel in the future, I would opt for ones where you can either transfer over to miles or it can be used for both purposes. So for example, Capital One Cashback can be converted to miles if you have the travel cards. What some people will do is earn a ton of cash back, and then afterwards, if they want to travel, then convert them to miles. If not, then just cash them out. For the most part, Capital One, Citi, and Chase work in this way. American Express kind of does as well, but their program is a lot more complex, and if you are doing cashback, it is a little bit more annoying. Basically, you would have to get specific brokerage cards to maximize the value, otherwise the cash statement rate is pretty low, and it's just more annoying. Fees are also interesting, so I would opt for ones that have no annual fees, but I wouldn't really care too much about the APR. I think that might throw some people off, but the idea is that it doesn't make sense to have credit cards and optimize for rewards if you're paying interest. If you're getting 5% back, but you're paying 20%, the math doesn't math. There are specific use cases for balance transfer cards and maybe 0% APR cards, but that's kind of a rabbit hole.
I love the fact that you brought up the importance of using a credit card responsibly. Now, I know that there are a ton of different credit cards available to us, so I would love to kind of go down the list of credit cards that you love, starting with the best type of credit card for students and recent graduates.
I think if you're a student, the Chase Freedom Rise is a solid pickup. Relatively competitive and also gets you into the Chase ecosystem. Capital One Saver One Student is the same thing, and also Discover It Student is pretty good. For new grads, especially if you are spending a bit more now, Chase Sapphire Preferred, Capital One Venture X, and Amex Gold are all pretty solid pickups. Especially so if you are moving somewhere like LA or New York for a new job, and yeah, things cost more.
How about for best cashback cards?
The big draw of cashback is that it's a lot less stressful and it's just a lot more straightforward. Points can have amazing upside, but if you don't care about that type of travel, then it doesn't matter. And again, kind of like we talked about earlier on, a lot of these cashback cards do have points programs that are associated with them, meaning that they can kind of go both ways and you can turn your cash back into miles. Capital One Saver One is a good all-arounder. Same thing with the Citi Double Cash, which is 2% back on everything. And the Citi Custom Cash is 5% on your top spend category of a giant list. And you can pretty much stick that on any category that you're struggling with. It depends on your focus, but there are a lot of good cashback cards.
And for those of us who don't want to pay an annual fee, what are some really good no annual fee options?
Yeah, with annual fee cards, it's pretty much always a math equation. You need to make sure that you're getting more value than the annual fee and also factoring in the opportunity cost. Also the fun part of cards, because for a lot of them, you'll have two pairings, Saver 1, which has no fee, and the Saver, which does have a fee. And you can pretty much put them as an equation and then solve for X, which is how much you spend on the different categories. There also could be an argument for things like insurance, but I'd be careful not to overvalue those.
I like to focus my cards on travel, and I know you do too. So what are some of the best travel cards out there?
Yeah, there's pretty much 4 different types: general travel cards, premium travel cards, airline cards, and hotel cards. For general ones, I think the Chase Sapphire Preferred is pretty solid, pretty reasonable annual fee, good bonus, and pretty competitive multipliers. For premium cards, it's about unlocking travel benefits, think lounge access with the Amex Platinum. Lots of options here, but my favorite would probably be the Capital One Venture X, given the value that you get and how affordable it is relative to a lot of the other cards. For airline cards, it's pretty much a math equation as well, unlocking benefits that you would otherwise have to pay for. Free checked bags for domestic flights being a pretty big consideration. If you're someone that goes skiing once a year and you're flying to Denver or something, then you would easily pay for that $95 annual fee card that comes with free checked bags. All of them kind of do the same thing here, so no real favorites. It's more so what airline you're trying to fly. I guess the exception would be Southwest, if that's an option, since they have free checked bags. For hotel cards, a lot of it is about getting elite status by holding the card and also getting free nights, so most of them come with one free night, but it does depend on the card. On the affordable end, the Chase World of Hyatt would be my go-to, and the Hyatt program has a lot of value.
I feel like recently I've seen an influx of people showing off their Amex Platinum cards. I think they just really love the lounge access in airports, but that's just never something I've been interested in just because I don't like their travel partners. But is it worth getting a travel card even if you don't like their travel partners?
I think it depends. If you can cash out the miles or points, then probably still useful, but if not, then probably not. I would also take a step back and look at their alliances or groups that they're part of. So for example, some people don't like flying American, and in their head, they don't see the point of getting American miles because they don't like American. At the same time, American miles are one of the best ways to fly Cathay Pacific first, Japan Airlines first, or Etihad first. Pretty much the only viable programs for these redemptions, and with other ones, you might be spending twice as much. In that case, more bonuses never hurt.
Now, thanks to you, as I mentioned, I learned how to use my Chase Sapphire points to fly us first class for our honeymoon. So I would love to know what one of your favorite trips that you bought purely on points was.
Probably going to Bora Bora twice and Maldives once within a 12-month span. We also ended up staying at a lot of top hotels, which was a lot of fun. And the trip was kind of more so for Mandy initially, but when I got there, I started appreciating it. I didn't really think I would like it as much, but as someone who grew up swimming, it was pretty much what I did for 3 to 4 hours a day, and I'd swim around and snorkel and see fish. Also, we got to swim with sharks, stingrays, and we are heading back this year to swim with whales. The crazy part is talking to non-credit card points friends who think it's not worth their time, and you hear that they did the same trip, but they ended up saving maybe 20K or 30K for a few years in order to do it, and you paid a fraction of the price. And there is work there. You have to do research, you have to sign up for cards and allocate your spends and find availability. But it feels pretty reasonable if it means saving 20 or 30K.
That sounds incredible. And I actually recently had a friend who went to the Maldives on point. So maybe one day we will get to that level. Every time I talk about credit cards, I always want to reinforce the importance of using credit cards responsibly. So I would love to know from you, what are some of your best practices to using your cards responsibly?
Yeah, there's a few things. I think the first one is to don't spend more to get points because the math doesn't math and that just doesn't work. Number 2 is to pay off the cards in full every month. And if you do need a bit of help with that, I'd recommend paying maybe every week or every 2 weeks. That way it's leaving your checking or savings account and paying the card. The benefit of that too is that you can adjust your budget and you see the money leaving. Number 3 is to make sure that you get value from the cards. Just because someone has a platinum card and it makes sense for them, it might not make sense for you. The overarching theme is whether it puts more money or value in your pocket.
As someone who has a ton of credit cards, how do you manage all of them?
Okay, so that's an interesting one. Just because you have a lot of cards doesn't mean that you use all of them. In fact, most of these are no annual fee cards that are sitting there to just how my credit score. They're things that I signed up for, had good bonuses, and downgraded to no annual fee cards. For most issuers, if you use the card once a month, then they're not going to close the card and you're fine. A lot of the time, I'll just do Amazon reloads for the minimum balance and have more money in my Amazon account. I think for most people, you generally only need 2 to 4 cards or maybe 6 cards, and it's covering each of the categories that you focus on: groceries, dining, and travel being the key ones. And then if you have other travel benefits that you like, if you travel a lot, then lounge access being a benefit. So for example, I have the Platinum card, but we also fly generally 1 to 2 times a month, and we have a pretty good Centurion lounge, and we also like it. We don't otherwise use the Platinum card for anything else other than the credits and those benefits because the multipliers are not competitive. Also, most cards do have alerts and things you can set up or auto pay, and that simplifies the whole flow.
What are your top 3 cards and why?
For most of these, I have done full videos on, so if I'm a bit fast, that's why. But my 3 top picks would be the Citi Custom Cash, the Capital One Venture X, and also the American Express Hilton Aspire. Those are also 3 cards that I consider S tier, pretty much broken, and just overall very amazing. For the Citi Custom Cash, you're getting 5% back on up to 500 spends per billing cycle on your top spend category of a pretty gigantic list. So you have things like restaurants, gas stations, grocery stores, and even home improvement. I think there's something really nice about getting 5% and locking it in for one of the categories that might be a weak spot for your setup, and you don't have to worry about it. So this might be your dedicated entertainment card or fitness card or something else. Venture X is pretty expensive at $395, but you have a lot of benefits, and it's surprisingly affordable. So a big reason for this is that you have a $300 Capital One travel credit you get every year, so year 1, year 2, and onwards, and that helps a lot. If you have the card, you're probably traveling, and if you travel once or twice a year, you're probably going to be able to use the credit. You also get 10,000 anniversary miles that are worth at least $100 in travel, and this is card member anniversary, so year 2, 3, and onwards. And yeah, about 100 value. So give or take, you are breaking even with the card. On top of that, you also get other benefits like lounge access, Capital One lounges, Plaza Premium lounges, and also Party Pass. For the first 2, it's you plus 2 guests. And for the last one, Party Pass, it's technically unlimited guests. And this is something that has been confirmed by Capital One, making it pretty valuable for families and just larger groups of friends. Also, the really cool part is that you can add up to 4 authorized users to the card, and they get their own Party Pass cards and can also access Capital One lounges with their authorized user card. Be careful not to add anyone you don't trust, but otherwise there is a lot of value. And if you are a couple or something, you could opt for one of these travel cards and both have lounge access. If you trust your parents, then that's also an option. I've also seen people that are later on in their career add their college-age kids, and you can lock the card still or have it as an emergency card, but still useful for them to have lounge access. American Express Hilton Aspire is a bit in the weeds, but you basically have up to 400 Hilton Resort credits, up to 200 flight credits, so 600 in total for a $550 annual fee. Even if you discount the credits, a big draw is that you get a free night reward every card member anniversary, and this can be pretty powerful. You can pretty much stay in any hotel that's under the Hilton umbrella, and there's a lot of them, and it works as long as there's standard room availability. So for example, we've used it at the Waldorf Astoria Beverly Hills, Waldorf Astoria Maldives, Waldorf Astoria Park City, and also the Conrad Bora Bora. Beverly Hills was about $1,000 per night, and the other ones were about $2,000 to $2,500 per night, so pretty good value. Even if you discount the credits, a lot of people would happily pay $200 to $300 or $400 for that coupon, for that certificate, in order to use it at these nice hotels. In that sense, it's not free by any means. You are still paying something, but you're paying a lot less than everyone else. If you like the type of travel, if you want to go skiing during peak times in nice resorts, then this is the way. You also get Hilton Diamond status by having the card, and you don't have to stay a bunch of nights like you normally would, and that's pretty helpful for upgrades and also free breakfast and lounge access depending on the hotel. Not for everyone, but run the numbers for yourself, your own situation, and your player too, and you might be surprised.
I have none of those cards, so I'm gonna have to deep dive your videos again to see if they're worth adding to my collection. But I just wanna thank you, Sebastian, for joining me on my channel. It really means a lot. I would not have been able to do this video properly without you. So where can people find you if they wanna learn more? Yeah,
thank you so much for having me. If you do wanna check out more card reviews or credit card and points news, then check out Ask Sebby and consider subscribing. Also, if you are debating cards at the CSP versus CSR, we do have a lot of calculators on the website, asksebby.com, and it should pop up if you Google it. Cards are great, they can offer a ton of value, but the math has to work, and you have to be responsible.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, credit cards can be fun as long as you use them responsibly. If you want to learn more about the cards that were mentioned in this video or want to learn more about Sebastian's or my favorite credit cards, check the links in the description box as well. Next week will be our very last video in this series where we talk about actually one of my favorite credit cards, totally dedicated to one video, and it is the Built card, which is a credit card just for renters. I'm Asia Dang. Thank you again so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next week for the very last video in the series. Bye.